This is Cavallo from datingadviceguru.com. Today we're going to talk about how to text a man into marrying you. Yep, I'm going to give you 3 psychological tricks. Is it possible? We're going to find out. Yeah, you know, men don't use phones the way women do. I'm sure this won't be a big surprise to you. After all, guys typically use a phone as a device, not a social tool. We take our calls on them, we get directions on them, maybe we handle an email or two, but most often we don't use them for a lot of chit chat or a lot of social connection. So you got to know how men use their phone if you're going to be effective at romancing them with it. I'm going to give you a few things you don't ever want to text them. First of all, don't text "hey" to a guy. You know, what's he supposed to do with that exactly? It's kind of an open-ended thing that he doesn't know how to respond to. Think about it from his perspective. He's sitting there sipping his cappuccino, pondering the latest basketball game. He's not quite ready to just have an open-ended conversation thrown on him. He's not going to be waiting to connect. So you've got to give him the bait he needs. Don't ever text this, "Where are you?" or "What are you doing?" This sounds way too much like you're checking in on him. And even if you don't mean to sound like you are, it still sounds like you are. Your texts need to sound organic, not desperate. And even if it's a question you're really curious about, you got to lead it off differently to get him into it. And of course, don't text LOL or LMAO. This is the texting equivalent of an uncomfortable silence. Think about it. How does he respond to that? It's kind of like that scene in Austin Powers where Dr. Evil and the henchmen are all laughing diabolically. And after a while, they don't know how to stop laughing comfortably. It gets really awkward. That's what it's like to get that in text. Now, if you want to get him to marry you, here's something you should text. You got to start treating him like a dolphin. After coaching literally thousands of clients, I'll tell you that the one big mistake that a lot of women typically make with texting guys is that they're too predictable. I'm telling you to treat him like a dolphin because you have to actually train him like a dolphin. Let me explain this because this is really huge. The way that those trainers get the dolphins to do those tricks and those aquatic parks and that is that they don't give them a fish every single time while they're training them. Okay, when they're out there swimming around and jumping up and bouncing the ball, yeah, they get a fish every time, but when they're being trained, they only get a fish every so often and they never know when. Irregular reinforcement is the key to getting somebody to do what you want. When we don't know when the treat is coming, we are more likely to respond. The second you start texting him or calling him or emailing him regularly, that's when his little lizard brain is going to go, boring. And he's going to start looking elsewhere for his fun. It's not that he's trying to be a dick. He's just not motivated by anything else but challenge. You've got to challenge a man. Get him to marry you. Texting tactic number 2 is to text him about your married friends. This one works wonders. And you may have heard it before, but maybe not taking it seriously. When you've been dating a guy for a while, you want to create a private tribe of your own. You want him having fun with you and your fun friends, especially if they're married. And you also want to be texting him things that are going on with them and letting him in on their lives. You want him to kind of be reprogrammed or brainwashed into the mindset of a committed guy, a man who will eventually marry you. And he needs to be flooded with examples of positive couples who are in committed relationships. Most guys don't get that. And as a result, that's why most guys don't want to get married. They don't see it being a positive thing. So you've got to flood him and overwhelm him with this awesomeness that is marriage. And finally, get him to marry you. Texting tactic number 2 is let him know you've got options. A guy is motivated by loss just as much as gain. In fact, is that, well, we are 10 times as motivated by the possibility of losing something than we are about the possibility of getting something new and cool. You got to text him about all the unbelievably cool things that are happening in your life. Let him know about the cool time you just had with your girlfriends at a party or that group of cool guys who invited you to a game of darts with them. If you're turning down experiences like this, by the way, you might be guilty of responding to your own guilt instead of your own value. Or maybe you can accidentally text him something that's meant for somebody else. Oops. A lot of women go through their dating life by trying to spare their man from any bad feelings. They don't want to scare him off in any way by seeming difficult in any way. And unfortunately, that's not how people work. Yeah, I get it. We should all be nice to each other. A man should see you for who you are and just love the dickens out of you. But human beings don't respond to shoulds of any kind. And human beings don't respond to the nicest girl either. You ever seen that happen? I'll bet you have. The simple rule of life is that you don't listen to what people say. Watch what they do. Watch how they respond and what they respond to. And don't get caught up in shoulds along the way. And don't ever feel bad about letting a guy know what he could be losing or ruining for himself. Real women with value have no problem reminding a man that he's not the only guy left on the planet. Yes, unconditional love is what you feel in your heart, but conditional boundaries are what you need to keep you healthy, desired, and loved by your man. And don't let anybody tell you any different. So there you go. I gave you 3 powerful ways to use your texts to get a man to make the ultimate commitment to you. And don't just use these in texts. Use them every day with them in every situation you can. These are principles that work outside of texting too. And texting is just one of the many ways that you can reel a man in. Aside from using your phone to communicate your irresistibility to him, there's something else called a soulmate signal. I've got a great little presentation video for you to see what the soulmate signal is and why it tells a man that you're the one for him. Go on over to datingadviceguru.com/soulmates, and I will see you there on the video. This signal will flip the switch in his head and make him decide to go all in on your relationship, and you need to know how it works. Go on over to datingadviceguru.com/soulmates. Of course, like this video, and I'll be talking again soon. Live and love with passion.